Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the coach from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Payoff.
Welcome to an all-new episode of The Payoff. I'm Tom. That's Jeff. We're going back to 1995 ECW hardcore heaven. But Jeff, first of all, how the hell are you doing?
You know, who doesn't love just going back to a little ECW action, like ECW Arena, of course. This is when they were, they're the 2300 Arena, like just good stuff. And so I'm feeling good. You know, we got a lot, summertime, like get some good wrestling happening, covering some different matches over the next couple of weeks, just kind of mix in a little bit. And so, yeah, I'm feeling good.
Good, man. Well, I'm pumped to cover this one. How did this end up on your radar?
Yeah, just EC dub, it's really what it boils down to. I like kind of throwing one of these matches in there, especially for you every once in a while, just to kind of see what we got. This was one that it was actually, you don't get a ton of ratings on these matches, which this one didn't get one, but it was still really highly talked about. A lot of good stuff happening here. It's just enjoyable. That's really what it boils down to. Brutal, but enjoyable.
Good, man. Well, I'm looking forward to it. So let's get right into the build.
Oh, it's time for the build.
So, ECW Arena. July 1st, 1995, this event happens. It's going to air on syndicated TV, ECW Hardcore TV, on the weeks of July 4th and July 11th. And depending on the market you were in, I think for me, we got ECW, I want to say at like 2 o'clock in the morning on Saturday nights. So I would record it and watch it. But yeah, so that we're at the ECW Arena, and this is pre-pay-per-views. So they would do these shows that, would feel like a pay-per-view, but they weren't on pay-per-view. We're still 2 years prior to that. So we start off with Snot and Dudley, accompanied by Big Dick Dudley, defeating the Pitbulls in 6 minutes. Dino Sendoff and Don E. Allen versus Chad Austin and the Broad Street Bully ended in a no contest. I actually didn't even know you could have a no contest in ECW. Hack Myers is going to defeat Big Mally. Too Cold Scorpio is going to defeat Taz, who was accompanied by Paulie Dangerously. Raven and Stevie Richards are going to retain the tag team championships, defeating Tommy Dreamer and Luna Vachon. Axel Rotten is going to defeat Ian Rotten, in a Taipei death match in 7 minutes. Then the match we're going to cover, Sandman's your ECW World Heavyweight Champion. And then we had one more match after this. The Public Enemy is going to defeat the Gangstas. So a little bit of everything on this show. 8 matches. Only the last 2 went more than 10 minutes. Bunch of future Hall of Famers on this show floating around. And some that probably will be in the Hall of Fame someday. But, we're slowly dripping these ECW folks into there. But, Jeff, how did we get to Sandman and Cactus Jack going at it?
Yeah. So this one, it's interesting because you actually got Cactus as the baby face in this one. He kind of, took on almost not a new persona, but took on the persona of not enjoying hardcore wrestling. And so you've got really the two sides of this. Of Sandman had actually in May, and so just a couple months prior to this, he beat Shane Douglas in order to be for the ECW World Title of that year. And so, of course, we all know Sandman, like little back, the beer soak, the kendo stick, like that's just what we had all the time. But with Cactus Jack as the babyface challenger on this one, like, didn't like the violence, disillusioned, even though like at this point he had a big past that was what made his name, was this extreme hardcore wrestling. And so you kind of had him taking on the establishment in some ways too on this one of, I don't like the violent culture, so I'm going to, wrestle against that as well too. And so it really boiled down to Sandman being wild and crazy and weapons and violence and all this other stuff, or not in, drinking beer and just being that way. Where on the flip side, you had Mick or Cactus Jack, Mick Foley, kind of taking the other side to this. And so I don't know, again, we've always said this. We don't watch the match and kind of the lead up to prepare for this. A lot of this is blind for you and me both. And so I don't know how violent this is going to be. I don't know if we're going to see Jack kind of turn a little bit and, go back to the old ways, if you will. Kind of know what to expect from Sandman on this one. But yeah, it should be an interesting one no matter what, though.
Well, if it is too violent for you and you need to turn it off, I'll understand.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate that. Luckily, we've never turned off. Have we turned off a match ever? I don't think so. Like,
no.
We've stopped it.
Maybe we can create a safe word for you.
Oh, that's fine. Okay. How about TKO, because TKO is trying to hurt me? Like,
yeah, TKO is a violent, vulgar, dirty swear word right now on the internet.
We'll talk about that for sure.
We got a lot to talk about. All right. So our 32-minute mark, ECW Hardcore Heaven 1995, season 2, episode 1 on Peacock. Are you ready?
EC Dub, let's do it.
All right. It's time for the payoff.
Oh, it's time for the payoff.
All right, here we go.
Sandman in the red, white, and blue pants. Kendo stick on the outside. It's got woman on the other side. I believe I saw her too over there.
So I had a thought, and this is there. I'm gonna weave Tony Khan, Vince McMahon, and Paul Heyman all into one little take here, and I want your perspective on it.
Okay.
So a lot of WWE, for better or for worse, over many decades, was predicated based on what Vince McMahon liked or didn't like.
Yep.
So, Vince McMahon, for whatever reason, wanted occupational gimmicks at one point. At one point, he wanted Hulk Hogan. At one point, he wanted to go younger. At one point, he wanted John Cena to win every single match. At one point, he wanted Roman Reigns to be the guy, whether the fans liked it or not. And so it's sometimes we overthink this. A lot of it was simply these were Vince McMahon's tastes in real time. Mm-hmm. I look at AEW now, and AEW is perfect for Tony Khan.
Yep.
It is his vision of wrestling. It is the talent that he wants to see. It's the way he wants. Wow. Sandman just dove over the top.
Jesus Christ. And landed on his feet.
Never in a million years.
The top rope to the floor with the kick.
Never in a million years did I think physically he could do that.
That was nuts.
So, well, it's amazing what a guy can do after a couple beers. So, so Tony Khan, again, he at the end of a Dynamite, he legitimately thinks this is the best show we ever did. This is incredible. Because no different than Vince McMahon, he's booking for an audience of one. Now, I think the challenge, again, if you're trying to appeal to a broader audience, if you're trying to increase your ratings, if you're trying to get more pay-per-view buy rates, what Tony Khan is doing is not working. If metrics matter, if attendance matter, if gates matter, if pay-per-view buys matter, if TV ratings matter, if any of that stuff matters, then what Tony Khan is doing is in decline. Mm-hmm. Because he is booking what he thinks is awesome, and a couple 100,000 people agree. So what I'm saying here is Paul Heyman, I believe, far more than Vince McMahon or Tony Khan, has had his hand on the pulse of what people want in a given moment. And you look at his ability over multiple decades to know what is cool, to know what is pop. Paul Heyman is cool. Vince McMahon is not cool. Tony Khan is not cool. Paul Heyman is cool. He understands pop culture. He understands what people want. And some people get old, some people get out of touch, some people just stay cool. And that's the difference. It's just a major compliment to Paul Heyman. So I'll pause. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that it speaks into some of the larger things we're going to talk about of just like what you're absolutely right. Like the booking for one, I think, yeah, every time Tony comes out, most of those, if you've been to one of the AEW live shows, he comes out after, kind of addresses the crowd. I'm sure he's very proud of what he put out there. It's weird almost sometimes how much he probably is caught up on it. And booking's not easy. I think that's something that like fans forget, like we forget too sometimes, like putting together 52 weeks, multiple shows, having all these different storylines. Plus, you have to factor in, not using our safe word, but you have to factor in TKO when it comes to WWE anymore. It's just, it's very weird.
Yeah. Well, and that's a whole nother, that's another issue all in of itself. But I just think that, again, I just believe, if I had to say, well, why is AEW fading when ECW kept getting cooler and more popular? Oh, well, ECW went out of business. Well, they went out of business because they had no idea how to manage the finances of their business. They didn't have, Shad Khan's money. Right, just a whole different. You're apples and bananas here that we're trying to compare. So, right. But yeah, I think that's a big problem. I think you look at when WWE struggled over the past few decades. When you look at AEW's problems right now, it's just the misalignment of the head booker relative to what audience wants. And I feel like Paul Heyman has had his hand on the pulse of it in a way that Vince at times has. Tony at times has, but not always.
Yeah, I think especially when it comes to Paul Heyman, he is the smartest guy in the room. I think he knows wrestling, just kind of seeing how it plays out. It's almost incredible. I don't think we give him enough credit for how smart he is, whether it was putting together the stable with everybody, that's one thing. But yeah, it's just credit where credit's due. Even the storytelling with Roman and the little things, not dyeing his hair, just wild. And so, more credit there where it's needed. Yeah.
Well, and Paul Heyman, two things can be true. He can be a horrible businessman, or at least not the best businessman, but he can be as good of a booker and hell on-screen character as there is. That he understands wrestling. So, got a woman on the outside trying to cheat. Pile driver on the chair. You don't see a lot of pile drivers anymore.
Yep.
The woman's now giving barbed wire. Of course, won't touch it. Giving barbed wire to Sandman, and yeah, we're having a hardcore match. That's for sure.
Only not he used a chair early on there to kind of hit Sandman, but yeah, Sandman wrapping himself in barbed wire now, kind of rolling it around him. That's something you don't see anymore.
Did you see Foley said he wanted to have a match with MJF?
I did not see that. No.
Yeah, I guess they talked about it. The problem is Foley. He's just physically can't do it, and some of it's his own fault. But yeah, I guess they talked about a whole storyline and everything.
I know MJF's thing right now is trying to get into in the stable with Lashley and, or MVP, which MVP, not no love lost between MVP and WWE, apparently. Not the biggest fan. So, yeah, just kind of crazy how that's all playing out, too. So, yeah, boy, that brutal with wrapped up in the barbed wire here. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I MVP's obviously entitled to his opinion, but perhaps I'd have a little more loyalty to a company that gave me a significant opportunity after I had been arrested for armed robbery.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't realize this until recently because I looked up, what he had been in trouble for. But I mean, armed robbery, kidnapping, and I don't know the whole story, but the point is that, he could have very easily not been given an opportunity on national television to be a professional wrestler. And he got that opportunity. Yeah. And it's got to be frustrating sometimes for WWE. And I know it's a two-way street. There are people that they've probably screwed. There's unpaid medical bills. There's, people that were removed from TV, never to be heard from again. But at the same time, you'd like to think there'd be a little bit of loyalty to people for getting an opportunity. But, people, let me tell you something. I heard this not that long ago, but it was the saying was something along the lines of people are loyal to wherever their paycheck is currently coming from. So, I love my company. I hated my old company. My current boss is great. My last boss is an asshole. Don't overthink that, because you go, well, no, people love Tony Khan. Yeah, the ones working for him do. And then they leave and then they don't. You're telling me Chris Jericho isn't going to be sitting on his podcast at some point in the future saying, hey, Tony Khan's a nice guy, but he really wasn't a good leader. Yeah, and he threw a bunch of money at us, but yeah, it was pretty chaotic backstage. It's going to happen. Okay? Yep. So you look at it. Well, the guys with the Legends deals usually have no problem with TKO and WWE. The ones that don't and haven't been on air, they do have a problem. So, we put so much stock into what people say, and whether it's professional wrestling or it's politics or it's business or it's anything else, usually if you follow the money, all of the answers will be there.
Yep.
And it's just true of every single thing. It's true of medicine. It's true of real estate. It's true of everything. I mean, why do people behave the way they do? They behave that way because of money. 99% of the time. All right. That's what shapes people's opinions and views and actions. So yeah.
Here comes woman.
Yep. Here we go.
Hitting. Woman, of course, as we all know, Nancy Benoit. Oof. Stiff shot there. Cactus breaking the kendo stick. Trying to.
I mean, everyone's standing. I mean, just that atmosphere, man. What a wild place.
There's your ref bump. Yeah, I think it's interesting. We'll probably have to wait till next week to discuss TKO and everything they're doing. But one of the things I saw recently was they want to renegotiate Roman Reigns' contract. The number I saw was $15 million. Who knows if it's actually that much? But either way, I feel like, is this the out there? Like, I can't think of a whole lot of times where we need, almost like a football player. We need to renegotiate so-and-so's contract. Like, I feel like we just don't hear about that as much.
Well, the last renegotiated contract I can think of was Bret Hart, when Vince was like, yeah, I can't pay you. Yeah. Well, here's the deal. So who knows if it's true or not? I mean, I had heard that with R-Truth, they had asked him to renegotiate and he said no.
Yeah.
Say, hey, we'd like to pay you less. And he said, no, I'm good. So there could be that. I mean, the pay scale, look, you can say that they should be paid twice as much. You can say they should be paid less. You can say whatever you want, but I would not be surprised
Cactus. And referee John Finnegan
my ass goodbye.
counts to 3.
What was that, Shane Douglas?
finished? Yep.
Has certainly left his mark on Extreme Championship Wrestling.
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner, and still ECW.
All right, so he's going to go ahead and win that with the help of Shane Douglas. I'm guessing this is right when Shane came back from. He still looks like his WWF Dean Douglas look. So probably when he first came back into ECW. So real quick, let's close the loop on this. So TKO, yeah, they could very well be trying to bring down the pay scale. I mean, the top guys are making a hell of a lot of money. There are multiple people making over 10 million. There's a bunch of people making 5 to 10 million. And I'm sure TKO looks at it, for a few reasons. Number one is the pay scale goes up. You're paying talent a lot. I've also had the thought too, and there's really nothing you can do about it at this point, but I just think that the other issue is going to be, if I'm making 15 million, why work full time? Because I think that the part with Roman is, okay, when I become a big enough star, Roman, Orton, Cena, I mean, now you're going to have 10, 15, 20 people that are making 10 million plus working part-time. Then the other fear is, are they just going to leave completely? I mean, how much money does Roman Reigns need? Say he's got 20 million sitting in the bank, cash after taxes. He doesn't need to take another bump the rest of his life. And that's the thing. I'm not defending it. I'm not condoning it. But Vince McMahon had 75 slaves at his disposal in that locker room. They needed the money. They needed to work. They were spending all the money they were making. They didn't have anything in savings. They had to pay their own medical bills. I mean, he had them captive forever.
Yeah.
Maybe Hulk Hogan made enough by 93, 94 that he didn't have to work. But then he got divorced and he had to go back to work. Flair had to work his entire career. So the promoter, the owner of the company, owned these guys. They no longer do. And so, again, I'm not defending TKO. I'm just saying the reality of the situation is, the more you pay people, the less they have to work, the less longevity you have these stars for. Creating mega stars is hard. You want Roman Reigns to be on the card for the next 10 years. You want 10 more years of Punk somehow, some way. You want 10 more years of Cody and Seth. You want and I think that that's probably part of it too. Now I will tell you, if I was AEW, I would want Roman Reigns to become available.
Yep.
And if he needed $20 million, I would give him $20 million. And I say that because I believe the only way that AEW can turn things around and really become a player is how WCW did it. They signed Hogan, then they signed Hall and Nash. And so Hogan being in there, Savage being in there, then being able to get Hall and Nash, two big stars that were just on your competition's TV. Obviously, a great angle went along with that, but you would need megastars. You had Punk and you screwed it up. You had Cody and you screwed it up. So could you get a Reigns? Could you get a Lesnar? The problem is, Jeff, there aren't 10 people on the planet that move the needle. You got Steve Austin, you got The Rock, you got Roman Reigns, you got John Cena, you got Cody Rhodes. Maybe you put CM Punk in that category. Who else is out there on the planet?
Well, and they're moving the needle, but are they active? Hogan's not.
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly. You're not getting Hogan, you're not getting Cena. I mean, so it's that's the problem. I'm just saying, if I'm AEW, I want, but there's 2 or 3 people that are out there that maybe you could have at some point, and it would cost you a fortune. But I think that's the only chance you have, and I don't even know if that would matter. And you say, well, but there's other people. Has Edge moved the needle? Is Jericho moving the needle? Does Will Ospreay move the needle? They can't. They can't fill a stadium in Texas. They can't stop the bleeding of lower pay-per-view buy rates. So who's out there? And it may not be anyone. But anyways, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I can understand why paying $15 million. And again, TKO's looking at this from the UFC standpoint. UFC pays their fighters a very small percentage of revenues.
Yep.
Their top people make way less than they're worth. I mean, Ronda Rousey, you know what she was worth to UFC? Probably $250 to $500 million would be the economic impact of Rousey over time. You know what she probably made? 5% of that? 10% of that? That's the model they want. And they probably look at Roman Reigns and they're like, dude, this guy's working what? 10 shows a year? 10 matches a year? 8 matches a year? We're paying him $2 million a match. Are we still going to fill London for 2 nights for WrestleMania with or without Roman Reigns? The answer is yes. So UFC, I understand as a fan you don't like it, but I'm just explaining what's going through their mind.
To your point, UFC, this was 2022 purse money only. The 5 highest UFC payers in 2022 earned an average of $1.17 million. That was it.
And keep in mind, UFC's a bigger company than WWE.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I think they're looking at it. They're getting rid of house shows. They're creating efficiencies. They're laying people off. I mean, they're going to clean things up in their mind, and they're going to have a more profitable business.
Only two fighters earn more than 6 figures.
There you go.
Crazy. Yep.
And WWE's got 20 people making over $1 million. What do you think The Miz makes? He makes a couple million bucks a year.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Somewhere between 5 and 12 million is what I'm seeing for the top people.
Oh,
no. I'm sorry. Yeah. Miz, I see 2.5 is on this list.
2.5. If he had left the company 3 years ago, would you have noticed?
Right.
So do you have 10 of them in the locker room? All right, there you go. I just saved you $25 million.
This is estimates for 2025. Drew 8 million, Punk 8, Owens, who's sidelined 7, Seth 9, AJ 3. That feels low. Cody 10, Orton 10, Brock 12, Roman 15.
There you go. And so those in TKO's mind, those are too high. But I wouldn't be surprised if that next tier down, that Miz, and I'm just making up names here, but I'm probably not too far off, Damian Priest.
I'm just doing the math real quick here.
Yeah, I mean, you start naming these $2.5 million,
yep.
and are there might be 15 or 20 of them floating around.
These alone, if you say even if they're estimates, it's 80 million.
Yeah. So what's Braun Breaker? Oh, we can get Breaker for $1 million a year. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, you want Breaker or you want Miz at 2.5 times that? And I'm not picking on Miz, and he actually has the ability to be a great ambassador to the company, and yeah, he may be a lifer, but there's going to be people that are of no value to the company.
Well, and there's other people that on this list, and who knows where it is. Rhea's not on this list. I'm seeing 6 million. Jay 7 million. Finn Balor 7 million. Kevin Owens, there's 7 again. Punk 8. Drew 8. Yeah, so there's a lot of people that weren't on that list. So just wild. But
and all right. Last closing thought is remember, it has become an ensemble cast. They are the NFL. The NFL is not reliant on any one person. Oh, well, what would happen if Patrick Mahomes got hurt for the year? It wouldn't matter.
Yep.
Okay. Look at wrestling previously. You had to have Hulk Hogan on the card or you couldn't draw. And it took many years, but they are now in a place, whether you like it or not as a fan, they are not reliant on any one person. Cody being off TV for a few months didn't matter. It just didn't. Reigns coming and going doesn't matter. I mean, they've built an ensemble cast. You don't want to lose them all, but if one guy says, "Look, I'm 15 million," forget it.
You can, yeah. Well, and the flips, the best example would be like Caitlin Clark in WNBA. Like she was out for a couple of weeks. Ticket prices dropped. Attendance, like it's the opposite of money as much as other people are like, well, there's a lot of different people. There is, but Caitlin Clark's selling your tickets. Like she is the Hulk Hogan. Yeah. And she is worth, and I'm making up a number, but she is probably worth hundreds of millions of dollars to that league. They need her on TV. They need her playing. They need her in the playoffs. They need the Fever to be good. And that's a horrible business model, by the way. But what are you going to do? Yeah.
What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Nothing. I mean, Michael Jordan retiring, it took, and arguably they still have not recovered from it. The Jazz Bulls final, that game 7, they have not sniffed that rating since.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Good. Really good stuff. Good conversation. Let's get into the aftermath.
Ho! It's time for the aftermath.
That was an interesting one. What'd you think of it?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. Like I said, it wasn't. It almost didn't feel as ECW kind of what I would be used. Like I get there was barbed wire. I get there was some violence in there, but also it didn't kind of get to the level that I thought it would. Whether intentionally or not, it just didn't. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, it was fine. Nice little brawl. It was a fun match, but nothing that I think you have to go back and watch.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So this one, getting a little bit into the aftermath here and kind of what happened. So for Cactus, he kind of kept going with this kind of anti-hardcore, kind of cutting better promos, kind of getting into some of that a little bit. Ended up feuding with Raven and Tommy Dreamer, eventually partnering with Raven in their alliance as well too. And then leaving ECW in 1996 to join the WWEF, where he would debut as Mankind. Sandman, on the flip side, he held the belt until December 1995, where he lost it to Mikey Whipwreck. Of course, still being a part of ECW, he's kind of, I'd say, one of the pillars of, like, you think about ECW, and he's one of those that you always are kind of, but again, feuding with just everybody, Raven, Shane Douglas again, Steve Austin for a little bit in there as well too. So just interesting stuff. It was ECW, the cast and crew, there's only so many to go around. So PWI this year for 1995, you're looking at, what do we got here? Cactus Jack 31, Sandman 60, with the Observer newsletter giving this one 3.25 stars. Where are you giving this one, bud?
I got this at a 4. I just didn't think it was all that good. How about you?
Yeah, I was thinking of 5. It was perfectly fine, but it's not one to kind of go back to. But, it's just, kind of what it was. Nothing special. But, glad we covered it, though. But, that's okay.
Agreed. All right, we're going to WCW next week.
Yeah, next couple of weeks here, actually. Yeah, we got, what is this? I believe this was the opening match of the card. It would make sense. It's the cruiserweights, close to it. Yeah, so second in line. But Chris Jericho and Ultimo Dragon, our first Ultimo Dragon match. And so it should be cool. It should be a fun one. At Bash at the Beach.
Good, man. Well, I'm pumped to cover it. We appreciate everyone listening. And we'll see you next week on an all-new episode of The Payoff.